What is the world doing to stop China? Precious little. There are sporadic statements of condemnation. There are campaigns once in a while, even celebrity endorsements, but nothing concrete to hold China accountable. And yet, the Chinese state remains on the edge. It is wary of a potential flare-up. The people in these regions have not given up their cause. Tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview with one such activist who has challenged the Chinese state to raise the voice of her people. Lhadon Tethong is a Tibetan independence activist. In 2008, she traveled to Beijing during the Olympics to protest against Chinese oppression. She says China's crackdown on minorities comes as no surprise to her. She's in Boston. I spoke to her earlier today. I'm joined by Lhadon Tethong, a Tibetan independence activist and director of the Tibet Action Institute. Lhadon, welcome to WION.
Thank you very much for having me.
So military-style camps, forced labor, re-education of Tibetans. The world is horrified by the reports that are coming out of Tibet. Are you surprised by any of this?
Sadly, no, I'm not surprised, though the news is devastating and disturbing. Tibetans have known for far too long that not only is this a possibility, but things like this are likely happening. Information just trickles out of Tibet these days. China has so effectively locked down all of Tibet. Tibetans can't get out. Diplomats, observers, journalists, others can't get in, or certainly not easily at all. And so it's really difficult to know what's happening on the ground. And this report, this news that just broke, was, not surprising and upsetting, but also just sadly another part of China's campaign to destroy, and I think you said it best, to destroy the Free Tibet movement.
Well, stories of Chinese persecution of all ethnic minorities and groups are very old, but suddenly there is international focus. Do these recent moves do you think they also have something to do with the fact that the Chinese state may be fearing another Tibetan uprising?
I think that the Chinese government actually, this is exactly it. They live in constant fear of what might happen in Tibet. 2008, when Tibetans across Tibet, in the lead up to the Olympic Games, did exactly what the Chinese government wanted them not to do, which was rise up, protest, go into the streets and say, we are not Chinese. We are not prospering and benefiting under Chinese rule, as the Chinese government is presenting in its Olympic propaganda. And we want freedom, and long live the Dalai Lama. These were the cries of the Tibetan people in 2008. And it was such an unbelievable PR disaster for the Chinese government, and such a real threat to China's national security, that everything since 2008 has been about how to make sure it doesn't happen again. I think the Chinese authorities know, the world can see after 60 years of unbelievable violence and policy after policy designed to break the spirit of the Tibetan people, they continually come up with failure. 1959, the uprising, 1987, 88, 89, and then 2008. And so now I do believe this is all, tightening the grip and trying to look for, and I have to use this term, in a way, it's sort of a final solution for the Tibetan issue. And I think we see that in East Turkestan or Xinjiang as well.
Do you think the issue of the Dalai Lama's succession will be a flashpoint between Tibetans and Beijing, or do you see some sort of a capitulation given the campaign that Beijing is running?
I think it is certainly going to be a flashpoint. I think for Tibetans, there is no more painful issue than to think about what will happen when it comes time to choose, when it comes time to find the 15th Dalai Lama. And I know certainly that I guess on some level, it doesn't have to be as bad as I think it could be if world governments, and the international community really steps in now and tries to hold Beijing to account. There's this idea that China doesn't care and Xi Jinping, they'll just do what they want, regardless of what anybody says or does on the international stage. But it's simply not true. The Chinese government cares what the world thinks, and their actions are mitigated, what they are willing to do or not willing to do. They're constantly testing the international community. And unfortunately, so many in the world react to Beijing in a way that is to back away or back down the minute that the Chinese leadership gets angry or upset or threatens. It's exactly the opposite thing that should be done in dealing with this Chinese government. A show of strength is important. To hold firm to your principles and your values in the face of their aggression is really important. And in the case of Tibet, I really believe that the international global support movement for Tibet and all the global attention on the Tibetan issue, the spotlight over these years, has saved Tibet in a way from what is happening in East Turkestan and in Xinjiang.
India is home to the Tibetan government in exile. What role do you think New Delhi can play in bringing attention to the persecution of Tibetans in China?
I mean, the Tibetans in India are so much the key to, and have always been the key to, the survival of this great and ancient civilization and culture and people, the survival of the Tibetan people. And the Tibetan government in exile in India is the legitimate representative of the Tibetan people inside Tibet. And so I think anything that can be done to bolster, to continue this unbelievable project and the generosity that India has shown to Tibetans, but not just on a sort of humanitarian basis, on a political basis as well. I think Tibetans have a lot to, in a way, teach the world about who really is this authoritarian China. I think China has done a good job to a certain degree up until now of sort of masking its true face. And I think with the recent incursions in India and Ladakh, with the sort of bellicose posture the Chinese are, the way that China is acting in the world right now, we see that the future of Tibet and this future of survival of this Chinese People's Republic of China, this authoritarian China, is really, the Chinese government represents one of the greatest risks, not just to the survival of Tibetans, not just to the national security of India, but to the peace and security in the world. And I think that's clearer to people now.
Lhadon Tethong, thank you very much and more power to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the attention on this issue.